Hi, and welcome to my beginner's guide for Valheim. I'm Icon, and this video will guide you through the raw basics of the game, how to craft items, how to collect materials, how to build your own first house, and how to get out of the tutorial area and survive all of this. So first up, we start out with basically nothing. Pressing tab opens up the character screen. Over here's our inventory. This is the hotbar. All these items up here are accessible with the numbers here on the keyboard. Down here is the basic inventory. Right-clicking items equips or unequips them, if it's some clothing or something like that. Armor rating goes here, encumbrance goes here. The raven icon opens up our compendium, which not only stores lore, but also if anything is affecting you right now, you see it here, and you see here message log there as well. So here goes the skill bar. Skilling in this game is pretty straightforward. You learn what you use, just like in Elder Scrolls games and stuff like that. So mouse overing this icon here shows you what the skill does, which is sometimes quite important to know. These icons here, trophies, are just so far fluff stuff mostly, and this is just enabling or disabling PvP. So to get crafting, we need resources. Luckily around here we find all the resources we need. This is your first spawning point. I'm going to talk about it in a few more minutes. So to pick up something, you press E and then you unpluck it from the ground, and then when you walk towards it, you just pick it up. Works with branches and with stones, and basically everything which is able to be picked up directly will be fly towards you when you pick it up. So that stone circle around here always has a few starting items which are always the same. So there you'll always find stones around here, and on the back side of the circle there's always a few things you can rely on, and that's a little bit of food. There's a few mushrooms back there and a few raspberries always. So with these new items in our inventory, we open up the crafting menu once again. So now we see we can craft hammers, stone axes, and clubs, but we're basically out of wood. So wood cannot only be picked up from the ground. You can also go there and press the left mouse button and punch some bush. It really works. It's not really effective, but you see down here the yellow bar is your stamina bar. Once that's empty, you can't punch, run, or do anything anymore. So we will need a little bit more wood to create our first axe. So with the axe, wood cutting ain't that difficult anymore. So you'll be able to just take down these guys a lot faster. So we're not only able to create wood out of these small things, we can also chop down trees now. So chopping down a tree works like this. Just go chop chop, and keep in mind that once you're through this thing, it's going to collapse. And trees are heavy. You'll instantly die at the beginning of the game if you stand beneath the log. So if you just keep chopping here, ultimately you will transform that monster here into usable wood. But at the beginning of the game, if you're still working with a stone axe, this, just as you might notice, takes quite some time. So with these materials, we can now also create ourselves a hammer. No, we need some more stone. So stone you can't destroy yet at all. You'll need to pluck that up from the ground. So let's talk about food. You see down there in the left corner, the red bar with the number 25, that's my HP. Those slots next here are the food slots. If you right click a food, you just eat it. In the screen here you see a raspberry gives you 10 health, 20 stamina over the duration of 600 seconds and will heal you for 1 HP per tick. Food gives you permanent status, or temporary status bonuses, which make you stronger. So basically, your diet influences your HP and your performance a lot. So we will now walk a little bit towards that riverbank. This raven here has always good tips, so you should listen to him, unlike me. but, well, I've already heard him talking the talk. So, near the water you will also find flints. Keep those in mind, flints are quite important. Also, near the water banks, it's mostly easier to find stones. And if you are lucky enough to find a shelter like this, you can use that to your own advantage. There's a beehive in there, so we should be careful around that. So your first humble abode will be most likely a little bit smaller than that. So now we can create ourselves a hammer. The hammer is your tool to create buildings. So once you have a hammer, you can build stuff. If you equip the hammer and right click with it, you are opening the building menu. So you see here, there's misc stuff. We can create a campfire, you can cook on that, and you can create a workbench. The workbench is your base building tool, basically. If you place it down, you see here that circle around the workbench. Now it's red because we can't place it down. Now it's turning white. This is the radius where you're going to be able to build your base, because that's the influence radius of the workbench. If you're lucky enough to place down your workbench under a roof, you can actually use it directly. A workbench can't be used without a roof. So I really feel like it's a very valid strategy to just look for these structures. They're everywhere in the world, and place down your workbench here, because now we can repair our items, but most importantly we can create more advanced tools, the hoe being one of the most important to begin with. So without a hoe, the first building you'll be creating will be quite difficult to be built, because the hoe is a leveling tool, which means with that you are able to create a even ground to build upon, which is, in my humble opinion, very, very important to not grow a little bit, to not grow frustrated with the building mode. So I'm just blocking up a few more stones before we create the next item. So it's perfectly fine to just roam around the map until you find some place to drop your workbench, or you just try it on your own without the tool here. It's up to you. So with the hoe in our inventory, we can now equip that, and as you see here, you can level ground, but you can also right click and open up a particularly similar menu to either raise ground or path and stuff. You see here, the raise ground menu needs 4 stones, and a workbench icon is still there. It is also there. This means it can be only done in the base radius here. So since I really like that spot, it's open and everything, I'm starting to level the ground here. As you see here, you're removing the grass, and you're starting to even out the height of things. You see, I'm even pulling away the floor beneath that rock. This is really making your building so much easier. So since I don't have too many materials right now, I'll just pause this video and gather up something like around 100 and 150 pieces of wood should be necessary, and we're going also I'm going to be also gathering up like 15 to 20 pieces of stone. This is what you should bring to create a nice little home. Of course, you could go for a little bit less, but over the time I've made the experience, less is not always more. And if you're finding some materials, you'll just be able to store them later. Okay, so I'm going to continue this video with a few more resources in my inventory. Now, back with some resources. I've been also killing some monsters in the forests, and well, there's not too much to be said about monsters. I haven't talked about them yet. So most monsters here in the meadows are just, well, killable just with your bare hands. So you should be just fine there. So, since I have now everything I need, we will now be creating something like a building. So, back to the hammer, let's pack up the building menu, and these are your pieces to work with. The most simple application here are just a few walls with a simple roof above it. So let's use that. I just noticed that I have overestimated the range of the workbench. Let's get rid of that stump. So most areas of this game are completely formable by the player. So here we go, that's better. So a very easy way to build a small shelter is just with 4 walls like that. And the larger your buildings get, the more complicated the building is. And to begin with, if you just want something to sleep in, you are perfectly fine with this design, and then you are free to tinker around with larger things. So we're going to create this now. These are the wood walls, 45 degree. You can also just use wood beams or other elements. The most important thing is whatever you build, it needs to be able to hold some sort of roof. And that's what really counts for the game. So here we go. You move and rotate pieces with the mouse wheel, and apart from that, things kind of like snap onto each other, as you might have noticed here. You can hold down the left shift button to untoggle that snap behavior, but well, most of the time you won't be needing that when you're new to this. So the thatch roof is just, well, simple roofing, and there's one thing missing now, and that's some wooden beam. We're going to create that in between. To open doors, you need to unequip the hammer. I know that's a little bit anti-intuitive, but it's necessary. And I made the experience that the wooden beams were always best to be installed inside of those buildings. So, almost there. Now some thatches. And as you see there, it's growing dark outside, so good thing that we are slowly getting finished. So you see, sometimes these things are a little bit more finicky, and if you ever have trouble with fitting stuff onto each other, try different angles, go inside the building and such. That always helps a ton. So this is a little bit claustrophobic, but it's enough to hold a bed. So that's that. You can of course build that larger if you want to, but I didn't want to. The spooky raven is again here and talking to us about our humble abode. A unclaimed bed, once we claim it, is our respawn point. And to sleep in it, you need a nearby fire. So let's drop down our fireplace here. Back to the hammer, misc, campfire. Let's put that really nice closely to the door. A campfire also holds a slot for a cooking station, so let's get that as well. At the cooking station, you can cook meats. I have no meats on myself because I haven't found any animals to slaughter yet, but that's just as simple as it can be. Now, if you want to sleep, you just go there, and then you can skip over the night. The night is not, well, per se deadly, but you regenerate stamina and HP slower, and in the meadows it's not really a problem, but well, maybe in other areas you don't want to be around at night, who knows. So this is all you need to just have a shelter above your head and get started. And if you don't want to cheese around like that, you can also you can also place down your workbench in a building while you're collecting wood, and you can always equip a hammer and deconstruct things by pressing the middle mouse button. So if we would press the middle mouse button here, we would just deconstruct the workbench. So you can just use a forlorn building somewhere in the woods, place down your workbench, craft something you need, repair your stuff, and reacquire the workbench then. And yeah, I really felt like building a building without a hoe was truly no fun at all for me personally, and that's why I advertised this tip so much, because it really helped me a lot to get past the frustrational part, because if the floor is not even in the game, things can even collapse. I've had collapsing pieces of wall because uneven pieces of flooring. Just saying that. Okay, so the next step will be now starting to hunt boars in the forest, and boars drop leather scraps. Leather scraps are your next big important resource, because out of leather scraps you're able to create wonderful and important items like crude bows or spears. And the bow is one of the stronger hunting weapons, which opens up deer hunting. So since I don't have any leather scraps as of yet, I can't do that. We're going to talk about the upgrade functionality of the workbench, and then I'm going to hunt some boars. So you can upgrade pretty much every item here. You see there's a required station level and there's material requirements. Your workbench can be upgraded by building upgrade items. You see here, the first there is a chopping block, which needs to be inside the radius of the workbench to work. And you see here it needs 10 wood and 10 flint, and then you upgrade your workbench, freeing up new things to work with it. But yeah, that's how it works. So I'm going to walk into the forests next. You can work decently with just the stone axe as a weapon. The flint axe is better, of course, but yeah, whatever you can work around. So here's boars. Boars are quite harmless enemies, as you see here. Just 2 swings and we're donezo. And here, they also drop meat. That's one thing I wanted to talk about, and I was hoping we find a quick boar there. So, meat is not usable in its raw status, but if you hang it over a cooking station, if you get over to the cooking station and press E in front of it, you just hang it over there, and then you have to wait. You know when it's done, you will hear another sizzling noise. The outside will change, and you will also get a little bit of an animation. You'll see it in a second, or in a few seconds, just like that. Should be done any second. This. And then you can take it off the fire, and you can also catch fire very easily. Turns out Norsemen are burning like cinders. So we can now eat that meat. Cooked meat is way stronger than other stuff you see here on that color-coded bar. How the HP bar is set together. Okay, so to gather up those scrap leather pieces, I'm going to pause the video one more time, because it can take quite some time to find enough pigs. You'll find them in the forests there. It also happens sometimes that you'll find them on the riverbanks together with some lizardy monsters, which are also a nice food source. See you with a few more scraps. Now, good morning and welcome back with a few more leather scraps. So we will now create ourselves a few more items we will actually need to proceed. So let's talk with that raven guy. So the crude bow is a really important weapon to be able to get up against deer. You will also need a few wooden arrows, so let's craft a few of those. And I also want to create a flint knife, but well, right now I can't. So let's get outside there. To effectively hunt deer, you need to utilize the stealth mode. Whereas shift puts you into a sprint mode, pressing the control button puts you into the crouch mode. So the better you get at it, the lower the stamina drain will be. So we will now start hunting deers, but how do you do this? So first up, let's smack that little piggy here. Boars are something you always want to loot wherever you go, because leather scraps are a very, very important resource for quite a long time. And let's see. We will now look for our first deer, and then I'm going to show you how to hunt deers. So it's really not bad to just go stealthy into the forest in general, because more often than not you will just shoo away those beasties long before you have even seen the first of them. But it's up to you how you want to do it. You can either walk like this or crouch and sneak through the forest. It's up to you. So let's see. Back there, I'm seeing one. So deer are really, really shy and careful animals. Whereas those pigs, they actually attack you if you get too close to them. They're just different than that. So, to get close to the deer, we now go into the crouching. And it's pretty important that they don't see you. So if you just move towards them without sneaking, you will scare them away. Also, you want to take care that they don't see you. That white little bar there is your detection meter, and well, I haven't fully figured out yet how it works, but if you just walk from behind, then hold down left mouse button and release, and that's that. Keep in mind that projectiles in this game have a certain curvature when they're flying, meaning the further away your enemy is, the more you need to calculate the curvature of the projectile in. So deer hunting is that important. Why? Because deers deliver deer hide. Deer hide is yet another material we haven't used yet. Deer hide is used for the next tier of armor, but also we're going to create our no, it's just for the next tier of armor. But deer can also drop deer trophies, and deer trophies are something we're going to talk about next. Just pick up here. Sometimes enemies drop trophies. Usually those trophies are not too interesting, but for the deer, that's something different. But first, let me please craft a knife. The knife is a alternative to go deer hunting. The knife has a very, very quick attack speed compared to the axe. Where see that? With a knife, you're actually able to just sprint into a deer and take it down while it's running away, but more of that later. So here's the stone circle we started out with, and here this rune stone here marks this Eikthyr slot. So as you see here, there are hooks of all manner for all manner of different enemies here. And all of these are symbolizing a boss. This one is the boss of the first area, and once you click that stone here, you get a marker where you can summon him. When you have killed enough deers, you will receive, for killing deers, you will receive deer trophies at some point. 2 of them are all you need to summon that boss. I'm going to show you how. The boss himself is not that hard to kill if you're feeling experienced with this kind of game or just comfy with the combat system in general. A flint weapon and a certain skill level are enough. You don't need to create a bigger set of armor than the rags, but more is always helpful because, you know, the more armor, the less damage you take per hit. But the boss enemy here has a quite predictable pattern when it comes down to his fighting, so it is definitely doable. So here goes our boss, and that's going to be the end of this tutorial. So here you get a hint what to do: hunt his kin, and then you get to the altar, and you need 2 deer trophies here to spawn the boss. Once you have killed that guy, you're basically done with the meadows area. The boss will drop a few items, which will then enable you to mine for ores, and then you need to leave this area to hit the Black Forest areas. And yeah, now you know basically enough to get yourself going. So, but one last thing I wanted to show you before we leave. That's the trick with the knife. Let's see if I'm finding some deer here, but well, I don't think it's that necessary. So the trick would be you sneak up to the deer just like I showed you with the bow, but instead of shooting at it, you'll just go out of your stealth, sprint at it, and then you just knife it down. Perfectly safe to do if you don't want to go for a bow, but the bow is the more reliable version, which is less stressful in my opinion. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I'd say that was enough for this video. Drop me a comment down below if you feel like there's anything I left out or there are any questions. Feel free to ask away. I really would like to have a extensive knowledge database around beginners, tutorial, tricks, tips, whatever. And leave a like or a subscribe as well. If you liked that video, I would deeply like your support on the channel or the video. But most importantly, have fun with the game and come back soon. See you then. Bye bye.